Austin Faith Dialogue at the Crossroads of Religion and Life, a series highlighting the cultural and social interactions with the worshiping and religious communities in and around the capital city. Austin Faith Dialogue is brought to you by the Austin Area Interreligious Ministries in cooperation with KNVA. Join us now for Austin Faith Dialogue.
We're glad you're here this week for Austin Faith Dialogue. Thank you for joining us for a lively conversation about dropouts in AISD and the creative efforts that are happening to help prevent dropouts with the faith community. And joining me today is Dr. Linnell Clark-Brown. You're the AISD Dropout Prevention Coordinator, correct?
That's correct.
It is so good to have you, Linnell. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, we have called this More Than a Million, this show. Why?
Because overall, over a lifetime, a high school graduate will earn over close to $1.2 million.
And that's what's on your banner, as I recall, right? Let's see how dramatic this is.
Just to give a general idea.
That is hard to imagine, that just completing high school will make that much of a difference in somebody's life.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Who are the kids in AISD who drop out? What can you tell us about where they come from, what ages they drop out at, that sort of thing?
Well, typically what we're seeing in the national research shows the same thing, that they're typically overage, they're in high school, repeat ninth graders. So what we're seeing is students who are, again, in ninth grade, and even in some cases our 12th graders will drop out early from school for various reasons. The at-risk factors could include pregnancy and lack of child care, to a need to work where they're working full-time, to where they're not being academically successful, and just a plethora of different reasons why a student may drop out, which is why it makes it so difficult, because you can't really pinpoint one specific thing to target, whereas each child has an individual story, and you have to be able to address that individual story.
You're saying then that one size program won't fit all in terms of keeping them in school, right?
That's correct. So we have to be continuously improving our services, both what we can provide in the school as well as in the community, to support students and their families.
Right, right. Okay, if you're more comfortable, just put that down, but we'll definitely be talking still about that dramatic difference, more than a million.
Right.
So would it be kids all over the school district who are dropping out? Because surely some of those reasons hit all across school lines, don't they?
That's correct. It's not limited to one particular school or one particular part of town. All schools have that challenges, and I would safely say Austin isn't alone in terms of trying to address those challenges of students that don't complete high school.
Now, you've been doing this work 11 years. What's happened to that dropout rate in the years that you've been in your position?
It has fluctuated. We are doing a much better job, but again, by far, when you have one dropout, you have one too many. So we're still nowhere close to where we would like to be. We still have approximately 30% of our students who are not finishing high school, that we want to make certain that we make a difference for them.
And dropout would imply, I suppose, that a child has missed more than one day of school. How do you know that someone's actually a dropout versus just they're sick for a few days?
Right. We put in various systems to make certain that after so many days, that at least in Austin, there's an automatic messaging machine that contacts parents to let them know that your student has missed some class, or a full day or part of day, and for them to send in notices of illnesses. And even if a student is ill, we want to know about that, because if it's an extended illness, we're still obligated to provide an educational support.
And it's hard for me. I must admit, I am biased, since I'm a product of AISD, and I know I got a wonderful education in the schools here in Austin. It's hard for me to imagine that someone would be that close, even in 12th grade, and still drop out of school. What can you do by the time someone's in 12th grade to keep them if they're at risk of dropping out? What could you possibly do?
number one, contact them. And it's like you said, the sooner that you contact the student, which is why I'm really asking for the assistance of the faith-based community and the community overall, is that we have to really do whatever we can. It's the moment that a student we notice is not in school for reasonable, acceptable reasons, that someone contacts them to find out why. Situation, for example, in one case, we had a 12th grader who dropped out because, again, we're talking about young adults who make decisions that they may not quite think through in terms of problem solving. His mom was dying, okay? And until we made that home visit and there was no one home to care for his mother, and he was scared something was going to happen to her while he was at school.
What a awful burden
Okay.
for a young person to have to bear.
Exactly. So how did we problem solve? We worked with the community to find some in-home care, and in those circumstances would possibly allow an exception to the cell phone rule, so that, or some way that they could immediately get in contact with him so that he could check in on his mom, if it meant coming to the nurse's office to make the phone call, you know, those types of things. But he didn't know to come to the school and say, this is the problem, I don't know how to solve it. He just knew his mom needed help. And in those circumstances, who wouldn't stay home with their mother?
Of course, any of us would.
Right.
You said about 30% of our students drop out. What does that translate to in terms of numbers of young people?
That could, in a large district as large as ours, that could translate anywhere to over 900 some kids at any given time. So we want to, again, make certain that, I don't have the exact numbers in front of me, but they're large enough that we definitely have to
Right.
say we are concerned, and as we should be.
That's
As we
a
should.
lot of wasted potential,
It is.
especially if
And
someone
that's a lot of money.
Exactly, a
That's
lot of
a lot of
money that
money.
these young people are leaving on the table.
Right.
So you're particularly emphasizing that the faith community can get involved in the work that you're doing, the dropout prevention work. Why the faith community? Why do you think people in their churches and synagogues and mosques can make a difference where perhaps others haven't?
Well, I started with the faith community because of just my own personal experience, and that's the foundation that I come from, where that our church believes in community service and faith in terms of giving back and reaching out. And so I'm a firm believer that, or I like to believe that all others hold that same value, not just those who are in organized religion, but I like to believe that the people in the Austin community, we live in a caring community. And so I just wanted to I started in various different manners to reach out, but that just seemed like a clear way to find and organize groups of people who would maybe think the same way, that they could spare the time to make a few phone calls.
And that's all it is? Just a few phone calls?
A few. It's amazing. We have a large number of students that we need to get in contact, but if every person, if I could get a large number of people to take 20 phone calls on evenings or weekends, that would make such a big difference, because we're trying to get in touch with students before the start of school. We're trying to find out, if we can find them, what is it, again, what are the reasons, so that then they can give us the information. I can use the school resources and other appropriate community resources then to maybe help problem solve some of those reasons and address them for students.
So ideally, you would want people watching the program to immediately step up, since we have just a short period of time before school starts.
Correct, right. School starts August 27th. And the sooner we can get in touch with students, or find out we have bad telephone numbers, that's important, because that means that then my staff and others within the school district, we need to start getting in the cars and look for students. And visit them.
There may be people who are interested in participating after the school year starts, but you say you want people to call these potential dropouts, before the beginning of school. After school starts, what would they do, though? How could people still help in your efforts?
Oh, trust me, they can still make phone calls. I'll still have students who will show up. We calculate in terms of dropouts almost daily. So there still will be a need, and we will still look for those students after that point. So if the community is interested in helping, I will never turn away that help.
And just a few phone calls. But you're right, actually. If someone knows that a grandmother or an aunt or an uncle or someone in an extended community is going to be calling, they might think twice about missing school, and they might really accept that offer of help, wouldn't they?
That, as well as the fact that sometimes just that reaching out by someone else who says, I care, we care, you're important, can really make that difference.
So that young man whose mother was dying came back to school?
Yes.
Good. You have a success story on him? I hope he's doing well?
Yeah, he graduated.
Wonderful.
Right.
How long has the program been going on where you've been intentional about trying to prevent dropouts?
The program has been in place, formally been in place for over 7 years now, even though I've been with the district for 11. When it started, the superintendent was wise enough to pull together a community task force to ask, to recognize that we were in agreement. It was a concern, and it was a community concern, and that the community together to give us some guidance in terms of how we might want to even get started in trying to address the situation. And so they gave me a good foundation in which to start.
So from your office, you can access then, I guess, social workers, and what are the kind of help for these young people?
We have social workers, we have counselors, so we look at not just we look at the academic needs of students in terms of what kind of services or supports do they need so that, again, they're not behind. And again, we look at whether it's the family needs support in terms of housing, or if it's a family situation, which it often is. It's not necessarily just a student. It's typically, we find it's something going on in the family dynamics, so we try to address those.
And I guess if all of us stop to think about it, we realize young people face different pressures from when we were in school.
Yes.
Much more
I think that our young people are forced in some cases to grow up much faster than I ever remember having responsibilities to think about.
Yeah, that was certainly my case. So we'll talk a little bit more about the program when we come back for the second half of the show. Thank you so much, Linnell.
You're welcome.
And thank you for being here for Austin Faith Dialogue. We'll be right back. Okay, so don't... We're glad you're here for the second half of Austin Faith Dialogue, where we're inviting the faith community to help AISD and prevent dropouts, right?
Absolutely.
And the guest today is Dr. Linnell Clark Brown. You are the AISD Dropout Prevention Coordinator.
Correct.
With a really important job, helping the entire community, basically.
I'm trying. I have a great team.
I'm sure you do. So in the first part of the show, we talked about the need for folks from the community, folks from the faith community in particular, to help your office. So a volunteer calls you, and then what happens?
Well, we're providing training in August, and even though the last training is on the 8th, I will be offering training. If anyone's interested, I can schedule more trainings. That's not a problem.
Right.
And basically what it is we'll identify students who are on our dropout list and provide those who are interested in helping with the phone numbers in a script to just make phone calls in the evenings and on weekends when we know there's a probability that a student or their parents or guardian, whomever, might be home. It also will help us identify, we have a big issue with incorrect phone numbers, or if we have a phone number, the student may have moved, and trying to get additional information on where the student may be located at any given point in time, which will help us.
So you're simply asking for something very simple. Make one phone call or continue to try just to get in touch with maybe 20 young people.
Correct. We don't want to overburden anyone. We want to, as they say, share the wealth. So the more people we have making those 20 phone calls, just imagine, I mean, 10 people, that's 200.
That's right. That's an enormous number.
That's
of people
right
to reach.
Exactly.
And any particular skills or abilities that you're looking for in these volunteers?
What would be most helpful is the more bilingual people who are interested in assisting. I have a lot of Spanish-speaking families where that would be helpful, and again, the script itself will be translated in Spanish, so they don't have to worry about trying to translate any of the words. We'll already provide that, and it's just fill in the blank. Ask the questions that we provide and fill in the blanks.
An easy volunteer job. But surely that's not the only thing your office is doing. You probably organize other events, other school-related projects?
We're having a big media campaign where we'll do, you'll see our bus advertisements, advertising about the 1 in a Million campaign, emphasizing how much students can make and earn in a lifetime if they graduate from high school. We'll have banners at the pools. We'll have movie trailers, so when you go and watch your movie and have your popcorn, don't be surprised when you see one of our advertisements about staying in school. And we're also going to have special guests at our Back to School Bash, which is on August the 11th, where we're encouraging the community to come out, to encourage their neighbors, to encourage young people so they can learn about the different supports that we'll provide in our schools, as well as additional information about educational opportunities.
Sure.
If a student needs some specialized assistance, we'll have information there about specialized schools. So we want to try to be a one-stop shopping situation at our Back to School Bash, and we encourage the community to come out and just see all the different events and meet all the different sponsors and so forth.
Sounds like a great festival, but I'm curious, how did you come up with this more than $1 million? Just draw the number out of thin air?
No, the research is there. We from the Census Bureau. That was there's been a lot of research in the area of dropout prevention, and we just did our homework in terms of the research, and that's the numbers were saying, or the end result. And so we were saying, okay, because even I was surprised about how much the earning potential was, and I was like, wow. So if you can do this with a high school diploma, imagine how much you can make if you go beyond, which is what we would really hope for all of our students.
And so that's all it is. With a simple high school diploma, on average, someone can earn $1 million?
$1.2 million.
More than they would have without the diploma.
That's correct. That's correct.
That would get me to stay in school. That would be one of the reasons. That's very compelling.
And we really want to not just educate our young people, we want to educate their parents too of that earning potential, to help us encourage their student to complete high school and even think about looking beyond high school.
Right. Any particular outreach to parents then, as opposed to what you're doing for the students themselves?
Well, some of we're trying to make certain that our media campaign targets the parents as well. That's why we felt we were doing the bus ads and the taxi cabs, because a lot of times our parents will take public transportation, and so we wanted to make certain that we send that message or place that messages in areas that they may be more prone to see, as well as we will have billboard messages that will target students and parents. So we want to make certain that again, we get the message out in different ways, but it's the same message. More than 1.2 million earned in a lifetime.
And when the rest of us see that campaign, then that's a signal to us. Pick up the phone and call and volunteer, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. And like I said, there's opportunity even after school starts, because we will continuously, unfortunately, have to be looking for students.
Right.
Who will not return after the school start window that we still need to try to contact.
You've been doing this, you said, for 11 years. So I wonder if you have some success stories. Maybe there's a young person who's come back and told you what a difference your efforts have made, or a teacher who's told you about the value of your program.
I have been very fortunate. I have campus-based dropout specialists who have shared with me the success stories about just the importance of, it was so nice that there was, as they say, a caring adult who, as one student says, she just kept coming. She just kept coming. She wouldn't stop coming to my house to say, come on, you can, there are better choices. We can work something out. Even as much as we would like for them to come back to the Austin Independent School District, if that particular educational setting doesn't work for them, there are still better choices. Our community offers various schools and various different opportunities that may be a better fit. We even have our alternative school at Garza, which offers for our students who need to go to school at different hours. And Johnston High School is even offering that. They will be offering evenings high school. So we're, again, trying to make certain that we educate students there are other ways to address their problems than to drop out. If they have to work, let's try to work around your work schedule. Let's try to work with the employers. And so, again, is the success story being the students that somebody cared enough to not stop coming, to not stop calling, to not give up. That's the success story. And the student actually graduated.
Do you have any idea what she's doing, where she is now?
One student that who I was close to and worked with, I know she was going in a nursing program. I believe it was a nursing program at Texas State University. And I believe by now, unfortunately, I haven't been able to stay in contact, but I know she was on the path for graduation. So I was very happy for her.
And these young people then were literally just a phone call away from not even finishing high school.
That's a good way to put it. And it's so true. Just how much a phone call can make a difference.
So remind us again what you want the faith community to do for you and your program.
Call and volunteer to make the phone calls. Call and volunteer, agree to come to a training. Again, we'll have training on August 8th, and if you can't make that training, then by all means, if I have enough interest, I will schedule additional dates. And I'm flexible enough that if I have a large enough group, I will come to that facility and provide the training.
And weren't you saying that there is a group at a nursing home?
Yes.
That volunteered?
Yes, I got a call from a lady saying, well, I think the people in my nursing home are interested in doing this. And I said, well, I tell you what, instead of everyone trying to get to me, I will come to you. Just pick the date, pick the time, and I will be there.
What a great ministry for them.
Yes,
and what a great service for the kids. So what keeps you going in all this after all these years?
Because I think about the support that I had growing up. And without, as they say, caring adults and caring families, I wouldn't be Dr. Linnell Clark Brown.
So you are the example.
I am the example.
And that is the kind of story I think that our young people need to hear. Looking at you saying, gosh, she can do it, I can do it.
And I know that. They can.
Oh, that's wonderful. Linnell, thank you so much. We look forward to not having a single young person not be in school this year because of what you and the volunteers are doing. Appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
Appreciate you all being here this week for Austin Faith Dialogue. Wait, I have time for a few more questions. I've misread the time, so stay with us. So then tell me about some of the people who volunteer, since we've got, as it turns out, a couple more minutes.
Oh, okay.
Who have you had volunteer with you, and what are some of their stories?
Well, our first volunteer training won't occur until August 1st. I've just had several phone calls from people who, from various backgrounds. One lady, she was so sweet. She called, she says, my church's members, we're in Pflugerville, can we still help? And I'm like, it's all of our community. It doesn't matter whether you're in Pflugerville, it doesn't matter what your religious beliefs are. What it matters is that you're a caring individual. And that the important thing, with the reason for the training too, is I do have to have volunteers sign a confidentiality agreement though.
Oh, of
That's
course.
very important because we are talking about student information. And so again, it's just a matter of following the script, getting the information, being patient when you dial that 10th phone call and it's still the wrong number, not to give up. That eventually we will find some students on our list, and for those where the number isn't correct, then that just means that, as they say, between me and my dropout specialist and the rest of the AISD staff, we just need to get in our cars and look for children.
So let us do the calls, and then you'll go do the looking.
We'll go do the
Now,
looking.
approximately how many people are you looking for?
As many as I can get. Because again, I don't want to overtax anyone. So if I don't want to give anyone more than 20 names.
Sure.
But I have 11 high schools, and all of them have children, unfortunately, on that dropout list that we need to try to get in touch with.
And so we're primarily looking at AISD, right?
That's correct.
Even though it's good to have a volunteer from Pflugerville. Good for them.
Yeah.
So we've had the numbers up from time to time. I know people are going to call. I know they're going to make a huge difference in AISD this year. So thank you, Linnell. Glad we had some extra time to talk.
Me too.
Thank you for joining us this week on Austin Faith Dialogue. Make the call, volunteer, and come back and join us again here next week.